How you doing, guys? Was in work early this morning. One of the guys had come in for coffee, and we were talking about working out, and he was talking about he's getting older, he's starting to slow down, and he's getting very frustrated with that. And I says, well, how old are you? And he says, well, I'll be 40 this month. And I said, and you stopped working out? And he said, yeah. I says, dude, you got decades to go. See, I had given up working out years ago, and I started picking up the habit when I started hitting my 40s. And I was telling him that in a lot of ways I was more successful, when I was in my 40s and 50s than when I was younger. See, I had customized a lot of my workouts to go along with my age. And he's like, really? And I said, oh yeah. We started talking about supplements back and forth like that. So he says he's got a gym at his warehouse. And I'm like, dude, take advantage of it. And he said, yeah, I think I will. I was telling him, because I get a lot of broken body parts now, I struggle walking down the driveway today, and I told him the body parts didn't start breaking until I stopped working out. And I had stopped working out for some reason in 2010. And I'm kicking myself for doing so. But that's when I started noticing. I mean, I got so many hernias, I could start a collection right now. Back is shot, knees are gone, and all that happy bullshit. I started thinking about where I learned most of my workout techniques. I had a friend of mine, we were teenagers, and he showed me so much as far as working out. This kid had muscles where you didn't think they existed. He finally took me to a karate school he had been affiliated with for some years. Now, the guy who ran the school had spent about 12 years in Japan, so he knew his stuff. There were no frills. It wasn't a fancy place. It was a broken down building, but the school kicked ass, and we kicked ass. It was phenomenal. So these were a lot of the workout techniques I had learned and used throughout the years. Now, the funny thing was, as far as the owner of this school goes, what I saw, and I was no guilty when I was younger, was flat out hero worship. This guy could do no wrong. Whatever he did, wherever he went, they had him up on a pedestal. One day I was listening to the radio, found out that he and several others had been taken into custody. They were running a child prostitution ring. I heard that and I was utterly shocked. The funny thing was, there were so many people around me that knew I was affiliated with this. And they knew about it, and they never said a word. My own parents knew about it, never said anything to me. And I'm thinking, a hazardous situation like this, and you chose to keep it to yourself. It was a good thing nothing ever happened, but the potential was there. The fact that they knew about it and kept silent, I could never forget that. I mentioned it to a few of the guys at the school about it, and they immediately came to his defense. And I'm like, is it true? Well, they were putting us up to denial. They knew it was true, but they were willing to overlook it because of who he was and what they thought he represented. And I'm like, you sons of bitches are blind. Well, I walked away from most of them, never spoke to them again. And I'm like, how could you see? Now, this is a day and age where child sex abuse was not very widespread, known-wise. I mean, it was going on as much as it is today, but people just didn't know about it. And yet they still were willing to put a state of denial. They didn't want to hear about it. They were still defending them. And I just walked away. How could you overlook something like that? Since then, I don't put anything past anybody. Being a JW, you find out that for the most part, if somebody's one of Jehovah's Witnesses, out and about, they can do no wrong. If you know something about it, you keep your mouth shut. And when I found out about the child sex abuse within the organization, obviously I'm no longer one, but the first thing they wanted me to do was overlook it. Jehovah will take care of it in his own good time. Oh, in other words, don't do a frigging thing about it. Well, like many of you, I opted to leave the organization. The sorry thing is, We all know about the CSA problem within Jehovah's Witnesses. We all know a lot of things that goes on within the organization that for the most part people inside are willing to overlook because they are Jehovah's Witnesses, because they really believe the organization is the truth. They're that brainwashed. Their leadership has been well aware of it and has been trying to whitewash it for years. And this is why many of us got away. Sorry thing is, we all know now that not all Jehovah's Witnesses are all pretty and upfront and quite the people that we thought they were at one time. But then again, neither are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I found out pretty quick, just because somebody has an XJW as a label, and it is just a label, doesn't make them a good person. Yeah, there's quite a few decent people out here. But a lot of times, you cannot take people at face value. Over the years, I usually mind my business and I don't say a lot about anybody unless I think somebody is a hazard or dangerous to everybody else. Then I speak up. And in several cases over the last 3 years, I've noticed one thing. They always have their defenders. Even that pervert BP a few years ago, he had his defenders. Kevin Teppo, who, as far as I know, was never into child sexual abuse, but was shystering people out of thousands, had his defenders. And of course, we all know about Needle Dick in Croatia. Of course, he's got his defenders. And they all like to speak up. But again, and I pointed this out several months ago, it's flat out hero worship. They don't want to see their heroes talked about. They don't want to see their heroes pointed out as doing anything wrong. Even BP a few years ago, everybody knew what he was, and a few people did come out in his defense. And I also know of one YouTuber that walked away from it because of how many people was coming out and defending him. He said he was sorry. Of course he did, and a lot of people bought that. So he was supposed to overlook what he was, even though he was a current danger to many of the women in this community. But people wanted to overlook that. You can't overlook something like that. And unfortunately, this won't be the first nor the last time you ever hear of an XJW that is involved in wrongdoing. This so-called community has gotten more black eyes in recent years than I could shake a stick at. In all honesty, I have noticed one thing. Over the last 3 years, I've kind of been backing off. And I question whether or not there really is an XJW community. And to be honest with you, no, there is not. I am talking to fewer and fewer as the years go by. As a matter of fact, there were quite a few I just stopped talking to. Not that they did anything wrong. It's just the way things worked out. I think I'm talking to maybe 4 at best right now on a semi-regular basis. But for the most part, most of the people I had been talking to, I am no longer speaking to. And a lot of them, some of them for the reason being that they're willing to overlook certain people's transgressions. I'm not going to mention the current situation because I don't know a whole lot about it. And I'm not talking about Needle Dick in Croatia. But you'll be hearing about another situation later on this week, I'm sure. But I'm not going to touch it. But to be honest with you, just because somebody is labeled XJW, you may like their videos, you may like what they do, you may like their activism, but do not put anybody on a pedestal. Because the thing is, all you're doing, you see a face, you like what they have to say, but you don't know them personally and you don't know what they're capable of. You see, at one time they may have been a victim, but all of a sudden this victim now becomes the perp. And this is something you got to be so careful of, because you never know what somebody's capable of. So in all honesty, people that you don't know, you want to kind of keep a safe distance from. I look back years ago at this karate school, and I just think how close I was to that hazardous situation. and people overlooked it. This is why today, if I see something dangerous, I cannot keep quiet about it, regardless who it hurts or who it offends. And I know when I come out and speak out about somebody, there are always going to be their defenders that are going to hate my guts. Hate away if you must. It's not going to slow me down any. But as far as being part of a community, I'm not seeing it. I do not belong to any community, XJW or otherwise. Even when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, I never really felt as though I was one of them. I never liked cliques, and I never belonged to them, and I never will. Just be careful who you follow and just how far you follow them. Because the thing is, anybody who wants to be up on a pedestal, they shouldn't be listened to at all. Anyways, guys, that's just something I wanted to bring out. I'm going to be heading out for the afternoon. I'll talk to you soon. You guys have a good day.